All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on something super powerful and honestly a little sneaky. We're talking about one of the oldest tricks in the book, appealing to our deepest fears and doubts. Just think about it for a second. That big decision you made recently. Was it a new car, a job switch, maybe something even more personal? Now, ask yourself this. What if that final nudge, that thing that pushed you over the edge, wasn't really your own logic? What if it was just a tiny seed of fear planted by someone else? So, how does this actually work? Well, before we can fight it, we've got to understand it. This is where the mind game really kicks off. It's not about someone telling you what to do. Nope, it starts with just a little whisper, a hint of doubt. And here's the real key. This technique totally bypasses facts and logic. It's not trying to convince your brain, it's designed to trigger an emotional reaction. It wants to create that feeling of urgency or worry or straight up anxiety, that feeling that makes you have to do something right now, whether that's buying a product or even just believing an idea.
Yeah, this really nails it, doesn't it? Look, we all deal with uncertainty. It's just life. But what this tactic does is it takes that normal everyday doubt and puts it on a mega amplifier. It cranks the volume up to 11 until that little bit of uncertainty feels like a full-blown crisis, one you have to solve immediately.
You might think this stuff is just random or happens by chance, but nope, there's a formula, a playbook really. So let's crack it open and look at the step-by-step game plan they use to build this trap. It's actually a pretty clear four-step process. Step 1, they create a problem you didn't even know you had by pointing out some potential risk. Step 2, they pour gasoline on that little spark of worry. They use these powerful, emotional stories to make the fear feel real, personal, like it's happening right now. Step 3, they bring in the crowd. They use social proof, making you think, hey, if everyone else is worried, I should be too. And then boom, the final step. Once you're good and anxious, they swoop in with their perfect solution. And you know why this is so dang effective? This quote says it all. At our core, we're hardwired to avoid bad things happening. Fear isn't just a feeling, it's a primal motivator. It's so strong it can literally hijack the logical part of our brain and force us to act, just so we don't have to face that awful feeling of regret down the road. So what is actually going on in our brains when this happens? I mean, this goes way beyond just some clever ad campaign. This is applied psychology. It's targeting a whole mix of cognitive biases that, let's be honest, we all have. Okay, check this out. This explains a huge piece of the puzzle. It's a bias called loss aversion. Here's how it works. Getting $100 feels pretty good, right? But psychologists have shown that the pain of losing $100 feels about twice as bad. It's an old survival instinct kicking in. For our ancestors, losing food was a disaster, but finding extra was just a nice bonus. Our brains are still running that ancient software. And manipulators know this. They exploit it by framing everything not as a potential gain, but as a terrible loss you're about to experience if you don't do what they say, right now. And the long-term impact of this? It's huge. We're not just talking about a few bad purchases. When you're constantly bombarded with these messages, it's just manipulative. It preys on our anxieties and feeds something called the negativity bias. That thing where bad news just sticks with us more than good news. And when you zoom out, this stuff actually creates a wider culture of stress and fear. The funny thing is, it can totally backfire. After a while, people just get skeptical and start to push back. Okay, I know that sounds a little grim, but here's the good news. Knowledge is your best defense. The whole key is just learning to spot the red flags. So let's get you geared up. Let's talk about the tools you need to see the stuff coming. All right, here's your checklist of warning signs. First, are they hitting you with emotional pressure instead of, actual logic? Are they whipping up this crazy sense of urgency but can't really explain why it has to be now? Are the claims they're making super vague, or do they have zero credible sources? And here's the big one. If a message makes you feel super anxious and you feel like you're being pushed to act purely on fear, that is a giant flashing red flag. Okay, so spotting the trap is step 1. That's huge. But now for the real question, right? Once you see it happening, how do you fight back? How do you take back the steering wheel and make sure your choices are actually yours? And that brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation, your defense strategy. We're talking real, actionable steps you can take to build up a mental firewall and stay in the driver's seat. So here's the game plan. First off, the most powerful thing you can do is just recognize it. Just say to yourself, I see what's happening here. Then start pushing back with logic. Fact check their claims. Go find some independent sources. And always, always ask that simple question.
what do they get out of this? It's also a great idea to talk to other people, get some different viewpoints. But honestly, the most important thing, just slow down. Take a breath, step back, and really look at the actual risks and benefits. And listen to your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Just give yourself time to think. Because let's be real, a decision that's rushed by fear is almost never the right one.
I want to leave you with this one last idea. The power of fear isn't really in the threat itself. It doesn't matter if it's real or totally made up. The power is in our unquestioning belief. The second you decide to question that fear, that is the exact moment it loses its grip on you. Hey, if you found this explainer helpful, if it gave you a few new tools for your mental toolkit, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. We'd love to have you. Thanks for watching.